Hey guys, क्या हाल चाल? I am back after a long gap, and this time I decided to start a series, the series of important Supreme Court cases. Hopefully, these will be useful for you in your prelims as well as your mains examination. So, इस series में I'll be discussing some important cases of the Supreme Court, their outcome, and what is the significance of those outcomes. We will be starting with the very famous Golaknath case, the Golaknath case of 1967, Golaknath brothers versus the State of Punjab. One of the first things that everyone knows about this particular case is the outcome that the Supreme Court gave. The one major outcome was that the Parliament does not have the power to change or to alter any fundamental right that is given in the Constitution. But let me just give you a background story of what actually happened in this case. So there were two brothers with the common surname Golaknath in Punjab, and they owned in between them about 500 acres of land in Ludhiana. As you know that after we got independence, one of the first few laws that were introduced in different states of India were the land ceiling laws, wherein a ceiling was given, as in the person was told that this is a maximum capacity of land that you can own, and if you own land larger than that or more than that, the state would take it away. So in Punjab, the law was passed that every person can only own 30 acres of land. That's 30. So the two brothers were given 30 acres of land each. Their tenants were given some other small pieces of land, and the other land that they had was to be taken up by the state of Punjab. And this particular law of the Punjab state that was placed in the ninth schedule. As you already know, ninth schedule was specifically made so that the laws placed in ninth schedule cannot be challenged in the Supreme Court. But obviously the brothers did not like it. They went to the Supreme Court, which famously became the Golaknath case. Now, apart from the Supreme Court ruling in which the Supreme Court said that the Parliament cannot alter any fundamental right that most of you know, there was another important takeaway from this particular case, which is not given in many books. This particular takeaway is called the doctrine of prospective overruling. Now, what is this doctrine? Let me just give you a very simple example of what this doctrine actually means. Let's assume that 10 years ago, the Supreme Court had given a judgment that if a boy and a girl are going together, it is the girl who should sit first, who should first take the seat, and then the boy should take his seat. That was a ruling given by the Supreme Court. Let's assume that. And in the past 10 years, whenever the Supreme Court is judging any case, the Supreme Court goes by that verdict only. That in case the boy sits first, he should be given the punishment because that was an earlier judgment of the court. Now, 10 years later, the Supreme Court feels that that particular judgment was wrong, and the Supreme Court now wants to overturn that, meaning that now the boy can take the seat first. It's not mandatory for the girl to take the seat first. So the Supreme Court is overturning its previous judgments. However, this would not have any impact on the earlier judgments of the court. Means earlier in the past years, if the Supreme Court had punished a boy for sitting first, that boy shall remain punished. Why? Because at that time, the law of the Supreme Court was valid. The overturning of the law by the Supreme Court would be valid only from the future dates. So this is what the prospective overruling verdict was. I'll just give. So let me just rephrase in short what I said about the doctrine of prospective overruling. If the Supreme Court overturns some of its earlier judgments, that would only have an impact on the future judgments. The earlier judgments given by the court shall remain intact. That is the doctrine of prospective overruling. So once again, let me just reiterate the two important takeaways from the Golaknath case. One important takeaway that is mentioned almost every book that you will come across, that the Parliament does not have the right to alter any fundamental right. Obviously, that was later on changed in the Keshan Bharti case, but we'll get to that later. And the second important takeaway, as I just said, was the doctrine of prospective overruling, meaning that if the Supreme Court overturns any of its earlier judgments, it would only have an impact in the future cases and not in the case that had been decided by the Supreme Court in the past. So that's it about the Golaknath case. I'll be back with a new video very soon, taking up another case that hopefully would be much more important for you in your examination. Till then, bye.